Welcome to beautiful Marco Island. It's a gorgeous day today here on Marco Island. And look at all those birds down there. You see them all down there at the beach? Holy cow. There's a lot of them. But today we're not going to the beach. Today we're going to the Marco Island Historical Museum. Boy, that sun is bright. I should have my sunglasses on. I've never been to this museum, so it'll be a first for both of us. And here we are at the Marco Island Historical Museum. As I said, I'd never been here before, and I just realized I don't have my ID. I don't think it'll matter. If you're a resident, you get in free, but I think this one is free for everybody. Let's take a look at what we have here. Oh, there's a lot of things. Here's the Marco Island cat statue, but I thought they had the real Marco Island cat here. We'll find out. Oh, I see what they're talking about. Let's take a look at that. The real Marco Island cat is only about 4 to 5 inches. It's a pretty small artifact, but an important one in the history of Marco Island. So as we walk up to the statue, oh, they have memorial bricks that you could buy. And this is probably a 6-foot statue here, adding another 2.5 feet for the pedestal. And there it says it was a gift. Pretty interesting. People lived here before the pyramids were built. I don't know what Rosie is, but apparently it was an authentic Mississippi paddle boat. So it says people have been here for 6,000 years, and look at those cheeky huts. They look exactly the way they do today. Let me correct the way I said that, a chicky hut. The carvings we'll see throughout the museum were carved locally in the style of the period. Paul Teachout was one of many colorful characters around Marco. After several run-ins with the law, he settled here in the 1940s and made this boat from scavenged materials and rudimentary tools. At one time, he lived in a hollowed-out tree. Here's a model of what the boat looked like during the 20-plus years he used it. Here's a model of this place. I'm parked right about here, and I came down and I looked at that statue and then came in here. This portion of the museum is a rotating exhibit, and right now it is looking at the work of artist Paul Arsenault. And here's Paul right here. Apparently there's scenes from around Marco Island, so let's see if we can find some places we recognize. So this is the old Marco Inn, and we've been by there. This is kind of by the Smith House. And there is the Snook Inn, and you've seen me do videos of that as well. There's the Jolly Bridge. That's a bridge I cross over every time we come here to get here and to leave. In many of my videos, you've heard me reference the Residence Beach, and we've walked down that boardwalk several times. This is pretty cool, seeing paintings of places that I'm incredibly familiar with, that I see all the time. Now there's Captain Hoar's house. We will do a video on Captain Hoar. He's really an interesting fella. Unfortunately, you can't access this. There is no public free access. Here's Tiger Tail Beach. I've been there, but I've never done a video there yet. It's on the north end of Marco. Not just Marco Island. This is Tennessee Williams' house in Key West. Isle of Capri. You've been there with me when we went to the Gypsy Island. Island Gypsy. Yeah, it's the Island Gypsy restaurant. Pelican Bend, another restaurant that we've been to. So many places you visited along with me on this channel. It's fun to see them as paintings. And this is in Goodland. I don't go to that end of the island very often. So this is apparently the train museum in Naples. I've been here 4 years and it is yet to open.
The Calusa Gallery. The body of a human and the head of a panther.
So here's a lot of artifacts and fossils that have been found in the area. Mastodon and mammoth teeth and different shells. Too much to give an in-depth explanation for on any of these, but a lot of neat stuff. And of course, remember seeing all of these shells at the Otter House. It's the same kind. So here is an old Spanish swivel gun. Who knows how it got here? Probably from a sunken ship. And here it is. We're coming up to the Marco Cat. But first, we're going to look at this guy. Are you ready? Here it is. An unbelievable artifact. Here they're calling it the most famous pre-Columbian Native American artifact ever discovered in all of Florida. Dates back to sometime between 500 to 1500. It's not very big. It's only about 5 or 6 inches tall. It says here it's just under 6 inches. And they have a sample of the buttonwood that this was carved from. It's a hard wood. So I was told by Bill that when they made this, what they think happened was they mixed it with animal fat and animal blood, which accounts for its red color and its pristine condition. It was one of the few things that held up when all of the other artifacts they found around it fell into pieces. And that looks like a little carving of a person, doesn't it? And I suppose that table represents some things that they found at the time that unfortunately just didn't stand the test of time once they were uncovered. After artifacts were discovered in 1895, they started the Pepperhurst expedition in 1896. This man, Frank Hamilton, was in charge of the whole thing, and that's when they found this. Those are the 3 artifacts we just looked at. If I can get my head shadow out of there. And they actually have photographs of the expedition of the dig itself. And look at that, they made a plaster mold of the cat. Since Hamilton Cushing couldn't keep the cat, they allowed him to make a bronze cast. And that's what this is all about. And this is his desk. So they had with them a guy named Wells Sawyer, and he was a bit of an artist. When they came out of the ground, this is what they looked like. Shortly after, they started to deteriorate rather rapidly, and it looked like that. So of course it had no more color, but he recalled the color. He was an artist, he had a good memory and a good eye for color, and that's why we have an idea of what the true color of these masks were. And there's the deer head that you saw earlier, and that's what it originally looked like. When it came out of the ground, it was in pieces. So the one that we just looked at is held together with screws. Once again, there's that cat. I really like those masks. They remind me of tiki masks. They are not. They are of this region. And if you're a kid, look at this. You can color masks. Or deer, although I'm not seeing pictures of the Marco cat to color. Here's the deer. Wonderful timeline. It goes all the way up to 2000s, but let's see where it started. We're over here at 3000 BC. People were living here in Marco Island. Imagine if you could have invested in property back then. And here's a representation of what the ground would be like if you were to dig deep on Marco Island, and different things you might find. Of course, if you find something like that, it's not yours to keep. You have to turn it in. Here's a replica of the weapon that the leader would possess. And there he is holding it. And just like today, when the hurricanes and floods came through, they wanted to be raised a little bit above it. So they built on mounds of shells.
I can hear that.
Okay,
In the other room, I can hear.
so I can put the pottery puzzle together. Oh, there it goes. I won't put it together. It feels like someone's playing a trick on you when you do that. You almost would need two people to hold it in place. I'm done. And here's the Pioneer era, more modern. These are scales of tarpons. Look how big they are compared to my hand and my finger. Apparently there were freshwater springs here on the island, and when they developed it, they covered them all up. And of course, we've been to Caxambas Park on the south end of the island. So here's Captain Bill Collier, and one of the things he did is he invented this clam digging dredge. And this video shows how it worked and how it's going along the bottom, getting the clams, setting off the conveyor belt into the boat. And right down here, there it is, or part of it anyway. And there is a clam pearl, and they say about every 5,000 clams, you might be able to find a clam pearl. And of course, in an all too common story, they overharvested and we no longer have clams. I mean, you can probably find clams, but not enough for an industry. Should I do it? So here's a character that lived on Marco over in Goodland, Stan Gober's. There is a restaurant and bar there we've never been to, but we will go there at some point. And of course, it's called Stan's. It wants me to touch this. Ooh. Ah. Oh, that's a rough one. And here's the whelk shells that Otter Mound was made from. So this is what's called a cracker house, and apparently it's full size. This is what families actually lived in back in the day.
The three brothers planned to start on the south tip of the island, but the village of Caxambas was in the way.
They offered to sell people property.
You know I'm going to do it, right? You know I'm going to do it. This is actually really comfortable. When you come here, take a load off, sit in the rocking chair, and just relax. And just watch the water. Let's see what's for dinner. We have an alligator pear, which of course is a Florida avocado, and a Chokoloskee chicken. You've been to Chokoloskee Island with me. They used to eat manatees. Yuck. Guava. Mullet. And oh no, they ate sea turtles. Here's a historic Hurricanes. Of course, they don't have Ian. That was a big daddy. So here is modern Marco Island. Starting in the early 60s, when it started to be developed. We'll just take a quick walk around here. Does anyone recognize that? You could have had a home on Marco Island for under $15,000. And here are the Mackle brothers. They're the ones that built Marco Island back in the early 60s. Bill just told me a little kid was sitting here watching the TV one day, and he went up to him and said, "What are you watching?" The kid answered, "I'm watching the microwave." He had never seen a TV like this before. And this is one of the original models from when they were selling lots and houses, way back when. They once had a sightseeing boat called the Marco Islander. And they really went for that tiki look, didn't they? Look at that. And this is part of it. It's about 6 feet tall. Unfortunately, I can't climb it. Or I would. You know me. Marco Island Airways. I could be Captain Mark Marco. And ladies, would you like to buy a Marco Sari? There it is. And here's sheet music for a song called The Girl in the Marco Sari. Sorry about that. And there's a Jolly Bridge under construction. If you got an extra 90 bucks, you can actually buy some of those masks. Wow. And you know me, I always say it's not a gift shop if it doesn't have shot glasses, and it has shot glasses. So let's see. They're not very expensive either. $6. Very nice. You can get some great historical and affordable gifts here. A lot of Marco books. Oh, I always love this type of stuff. Creepy Florida. But they have pirates and explorers, all kinds of cool stuff. Now, this is cool. When you put the heat in here, images appear. And apparently, these people are swimming, and when you put the heat in, the shark appears. I have yet to do a story on the Dome House. We used to be able to see it from our place before Ian knocked it into the ocean. I'll do a story on that soon. Wooden 3D puzzles. All kinds of good stuff. We can't leave without going down to the photo spot. There's a chicky hut over here, and we're gonna go inside and take a look. Water's really pretty. Oh, this is very nice. So anybody who wants to can just come and hang out here. Really relaxing. So I would assume that this is a Calusa hut. There's an interesting story about these. As long as there is no electricity and it's built by a Calusa Indian, you do not need a permit to have these built. However, I see this one does have electricity, so I assume that they had to get a permit. One of those benefits they give to the native people. Now let's go to that photo spot. And we bid farewell to the Marco cat. And here we are at the photo spot. It's really a pretty mural, isn't it? Thanks for joining me on this trip to the Marco Island Historical Museum. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did as well. If you have any questions for me, I'm always here on the island. Just ask down below. As always, if you can give me a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you here next time on the Average Me channel.